So good afternoon to everyone. My name is Emmanuel Gardon. I'm head of sector for higher education and research at the Union for the Mediterranean Secretariat, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome here three role models for women in tech, which is the topic of this session, women in technology and innovation. And we will have a focus also on the Mediterranean this afternoon. Just some key figures to start before I give the floor to our guests. You may have read before joining this session a recent report by the World Economic Forum on the Global Gender Gap Report for 2019, where it's clearly stated that even if the gender gap globally is reducing, there is a new risk with the fourth industrial revolution and the perspective of many professions being impacted by the automations. To see this gender gap increase again, there remains a perception among more than 50% of women that technology is a male industry, while almost a third of women believe that gender bias is still a major hurdle in the recruitment process. And I know we will have concrete examples and concrete intake about this afternoon. Another worrying observation from the International Monetary Fund, recent research which reveals that women are employed in the majority of professions threatened by the artificial intelligence. Given the current rates of tech evolution, the International Monetary Fund estimates that 26 million female jobs across OECD countries are at risk of disappearing. 26 million female jobs. It's really a huge number. It also predicts that 180 million women's jobs globally are at risk of displacement. And finally, there is a deficit in knowledge of essential machine learning skills among women, with men outpacing women by 85%. So a very brief, we could, of course, share much more figures and much more data, but this session is meant to be very lively, so we will start with the first round of questions, and I will very briefly introduce our guests. So the first question that I would like to ask you is about the main challenges faced by women in the tech and innovation sector. And I would first like to give the floor to Laura Fernandez. Laura is the founding manager of allwomen.tech, which is a campus made by women for women. It's based in Barcelona, and they are delivering all types. Well, you will tell us more.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yeah? Cool. Hi. So my name is Laura. I'm the CEO of All Women. We are a tech academy for women and run by women. We train women in data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So all those figures that you were mentioning before, we are trying to undermine them. We women, we want to be in the data sector. We want to be building the solutions that are going to automate our lives. We want to avoid all the biases that we have been recently listening in different tech solutions. For example, when hiring software that doesn't recognize female voices, and then they just remove like female candidates, or well, there are many examples like that. So we would like to be a part of like changing that status quo, and of course, like I don't know the exact number that you say that all these like how many millions you said? 26 million jobs of female are gonna disappear. So well, we hope this is not happening, and we are fighting against that. So that's what we do in the form of training. So in the end, knowledge for us is a very powerful tool that not only gives you the tools to to do a new job, but also to empower yourself. And then you're going to be in a society that is changing very fast. You are going to be able to adapt, and adapt. That's what you need in the end, to be able to adapt all the time. So we try to fulfill that by giving these tech skills, but also more soft and personal, and a community that is empowering those women.
Thank you very much. We also have the pleasure to have with us Cara Antonin. She is Chief Marketing and Operations Officer at Microsoft Netherlands, but she's also, let's say, in the civil society, an executive advisory board member of a global community called Women in Tech. And maybe could you give us very few details?
Yeah, so thanks very much. Can you hear me as well? So I'm not sure if I can. Okay. So thank you. I think it's just vitally important that first of all we get women on the bus, but we also get them the right seat on the bus. And what I mean by that is ensuring that organizations open their doors to including more women in their corporations. And one of the things that we're looking at is the start of that process, because recognizing that a lot of the job descriptions that we post for roles that are in technology may not be all that attractive for women. And if it sounds sort of like I need a sumo wrestler to do this job, you may not be attracting women to want to come in and do the job that you're seeking their support on. The next thing is, when you think about the candidate pools that you're bringing in to apply for jobs, how often are you recognizing a balanced candidate pool where you have 50% women and men in the process? When you have only one woman out of 10 candidates, then that woman has to outperform 9 other men in order to receive the job. And well, that's not starting really with equal footing. The other side of the equation is just as important, that we need to ensure that in the interviewing pool, we also have an equal number of men and women that are evaluating the candidates, because that will help us to neutralize some of the bias that we will all bring, whether we're the candidate or on the side of interviewing and in the hiring role. So it's looking at the balanced opportunity, more candidates, 50% representation of gender diversity, and also on the hiring panels in order to get more women into those roles. And then once women are in the organization and doing great things in technology, it's vitally important that they are part of the inner circles where decisions are being made. I think one thing that often women are challenged by is not understanding the value that they do bring and the need for that diversity and to include them in the conversation. And the best way to do that is to pair them up with a buddy who is influential in the organization and can help ensure that they're a part of the inner circles and where those key decisions are being made. So it's not only about getting them on the bus, it's getting them into the right seat on the bus, if you will, and giving them an equal opportunity to have that chance to come into the corporations and the organizations that we represent, in order to start to change the game on how we are balancing getting more women into roles in technology. I think that's really important, and maybe some concrete examples and ideas about how we can continue to do that. I am a firm believer, though, I think this whole conversation starts way before we get into the career phase, even at a very early age, where young girls in school need to be influenced to choose for a path in technology. In fact, in any of the STEM or STEAM areas, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And it's very important that they see the role models in the society and around them that are exciting them and encouraging them to want to choose for a path that is technology. Because there's one thing for sure, girls and boys at a young age, around 14, are scoring about the same when it comes to taking classes in the math, sciences, and technologies. But the boys are being stimulated and encouraged to go for those tech choices in their own educational path, and girls are being more encouraged to study the arts and humanities, where actually they have great creativity, which we need for solving some of the world's biggest problems, and they have a real opportunity to make a better choice for technology's sake to go on the path of technology. So a few thoughts that I have to just get the conversation started, and well, we'll continue on, I think, from there. Huh?
Thank you very much. Very concrete. Dr. Justina Bules, she's an energy transition economist, and she's working on blockchain applications to energy. So she also created her own startup in the energy tech sector a few years ago. What do you consider the challenges for women to access tech and innovation businesses?
Okay, so is it working? Yeah, okay. I think it's very hard for me to represent all women in tech, but I want to give some personal stories. Like Kara said, it's important for us to have the right seat, not just to be on the bus. And to be very specific and to give concrete examples, I've been working in London for, as you said, on blockchain for energy and artificial intelligence in fintech. And I think the biggest problem that is challenging for me is gender pay gap, transparency. I don't know how much my colleagues are making. I don't know how many of you are women in tech or are like women in tech.
How many are with you? If you raise
Okay.
your hands.
Yeah. But I think it's important for us to know how much our peers are making. And for example, one concrete thing that we've done in our community is that we did interviews with women who are working in the tech sector to ask them how much they're making, compare their male colleagues. And most of the time we found out that it's like cents on the dollars, which is unfair. And also without regulations and policymakers taking this seriously, I don't see it. I don't see companies feeling the urge to do it on their own. If we don't have the ecosystem, if we don't have the support system of the policymakers to be not just regulators of job market, but also enablers for women to be and to have this space. So I don't think, like as a woman in tech, I don't think we're missing the skills. I don't think we're shying away because sometimes they say women are not putting themselves forward. This morning I had my first keynote on blockchain applications and energy systems, and it was like inside of me I felt there's a fight. Oh my God, am I going to do good? Am I going to be the best to present this topic to the people? But we're fighting this urge and we're taking this place, and there's a lot of courage and there's a lot of energy, and we're putting ourselves out there. So I'm thankful, for example, for the Smart City Expo that they have given me this platform and this floor, and they have eyes, because it's very important for enablers to have the eyes to see that, oh my God, the room is full of men. We need to have more women in. So, yeah.
Thank you. Very dynamic testimony. Maybe coming back to Laura, what about the challenges that face your learners? So you are targeting both women who are transitioning from classical jobs, let's call them, to creating their own startup or to taking up positions related to tech, or you're also targeting women who have already created their startup. So what are the challenges that you observe among your learners?
Yeah, so I think you both made like super good points that made me, reflect more. So one is the role model part. I think we listen like very often about the need of having role models, but I truly believe that this is like very necessary, because I had a role model. I decided to start my own company because I had that woman telling me, yes, you can do it, and I did it. And then with that, when we decided to have only women instructors, we try to have like the same effect in our students. Like all those women, they are data scientists, they are engineers, they are product managers, they are all women, they made it. You can also do it. And at the same time, you can build a network and a community that is gonna help you then in the professional field. So I had some of our instructors that they work at tech companies today, they have hired some of our students. So from class, we are already building a professional network. That's one thing. And then like working, I think, together with companies, and something that you said, like sometimes we get like, it's our fault that we doesn't put ourselves out there. I don't think it's our fault. I think it's like the society and the system that we have built during all these years that is made like that. And knowing that and being aware of that, we should have these transparency laws and by law, by government, not a company decided or not decided. Because then we have companies saying, yeah, we would love to have more women in our companies, but this company is not built for women actually, and then sometimes they feel isolated, they don't feel comfortable, and they finally run away from that company. So I think it's very good that we're talking about all those topics, and I think we should talk all together about those topics. There is a lot to learn. I don't think we all have all answers, but the more we talk and with more representatives we speak, the better we can find a solution that makes sense for larger amount of people and time. So we need to have a lot of these conversations. And I also think then to take action. And maybe we don't need to plan the big plan that is gonna, I don't know, for 10 years, but step by step, but without stopping, and then just putting things on test is a way of learning for me.
Thank you. So we have heard about some successful initiatives. Maybe Cara, could you tell us your opinion on how can these successful strategies be transferred to geographical areas where, for instance, just talking about this session about the Mediterranean, how can we transfer initiative that you have taken in the Netherlands to the southern Mediterranean countries? Thank you.
So thank you very much. I have this dream that one day we won't be sitting here talking about women in tech. We'll just be talking about great, talented people in technology. And it will take some time for us to get there, and that's why we are here today, and that's why we are talking about it, because we do have a gap to fill, and we have to have some work to do in order to get a better balance into our societies. And one of the ways that we're doing that, and something that I'm very passionately involved in, is a part of a global movement called Women in Technology. And there's a wonderful individual, her name is Ayumi Moore, and she is the global CEO and founder of Global Women in Tech. And she has brought together an idea here based out of Europe, she's coming from Paris, of really trying to excite and inspire and motivate more women to choose for a career in technology. And whatever that is and however you define that to be, because let's face it, almost every company these days is becoming a software company, a technology company. What company today doesn't utilize some type of technology in order to make their operations more efficient, in order to get better insights about their customers, in order to run their business more smoothly? So we're all utilizing technology of some sort. So if a young woman says, I love this fashion brand, I'm going to go and work there, great. And you know what? Go do data analytics at that company. Be a data scientist at that company. And so get excited about how technology can enable you to do your job in the best way possible. Through the Global Women in Tech movement, we actually have set up a number of programs there where we have community leaders all around the Netherlands that are doing local work to attract people to come into the organization and into this movement with us. We're running monthly several engagements and opportunities to get to talk about what technology does mean, what the opportunities look like. And one in particular is a program that we call the Role Model Program. And the Role Model Program is an opportunity for, so let me say this, you can't be what you can't see. We need more women who will become role models. And if we can help younger women to learn about leadership, to learn about utilizing their voice on a podium, to think about personal branding, to think about their presence in front of media in order to get more visibility to the work that they're doing, we will have more role models in this world that will excite and inspire other young women to want to choose for those careers in technology. And we're thinking also about the personal attributes. So what is the mindset that you need to be a great person that builds relationships? So let's also think about the feminine archetype, which is very important in terms of how we recognize, and I see a very diverse audience in front of me, and then I think, we need this balance everywhere, and we need that to be represented in the companies that we work in and in the societies that we live in, where we recognize that women often bring great skills around collaboration that are nurturing, being very service-oriented or serving others. And there are many skills and attributes that women bring that bring a balance to those engagements, into those relationships. And it's vitally important to recognize and include those in our organizations and to bring those forward. So how we can really transfer these types of activities and these movements, because it's a global movement. I'm actually very proud to say that just this week, in fact, in the UAE, we have announced that we will be launching a local chapter that will be held out of Dubai, or run out of Dubai. And we're working with local business leaders who want to help us to have the Women in Tech movement come to the UAE, as one example. The global movement is today running in more than 70 countries around the globe. And we want to keep going. We want more countries to get engaged with us. And if you do have an interest in the country that you're representing and say, I want to get a movement going also in my country, please come and speak with me or link up with me on LinkedIn, and I will happily get you connected into the organization so that we can continue to proliferate the opportunity to excite even more women to join this movement. And I sound very exclusive when I say women only. It's not. We need our allies too. So really the invitation is for everyone, where both men and women can come to the table, because the men that have the key to many of these doors today, to making decisions today, need to do their role just as much in helping open those doors and bringing more women into the conversation and bringing more women to the table. So that's one way, I think, very concretely, that we can continue to expand, accelerate, and grow, getting more women excited about careers in technology, so that one day we're not sitting here and talking about women in tech, but great talent in technology.
Thank you very much for this apology for global talent in tech. You're Egyptian born and raised. What would be your recommendation to better help disseminate the lessons learned from success stories on the northern rim of the Mediterranean to the southern rim of the Mediterranean?
Okay, so from my own personal experience, I found that there are three things that have propelled my journey or my expertise forward and made me present in where I am right now. The first thing would be the knowledge or the expertise. We don't have amazing education system in the South. Let's be very honest. We don't have the perfect apprenticeship for women. For example, I am a pharmacist by degree, but I had great passion for energy systems, and my apprenticeship, or the way I learned it, is by doing, when I started my own startup. And if I did not have people believing in me, saying, oh, she's a good entrepreneur, she can make it, I'm going to invest in her company, maybe I wouldn't have been an energy expert or whatever right now. So the knowledge that, I don't want to say access to knowledge, but I want to say people have to be, companies have to be more open-minded, that when you're present in this event, don't view it as like an expo and like flipping through the event. Treat it more as a community gathering. Look for talents. If you think women are not leaning in, like Sheryl Sandberg also always say, maybe if the onus is on you to figure out how you can create an empowering system for these women to be more talented and to sharpen their expertise in the needed areas. And the second thing is mobility. Mobility is a big, huge fuzz from south to north. For example, I had problems in my visa to come here, and Jenny, sitting here, has helped me so much. She's been calling the Spanish embassy in Cairo, please let her come in. And as the president of Anna Lindh Foundation always say, that we're people who are known to these organizations. They have selected us. They know our track record. So we have already proved ourselves. For us to go through this hassle, to be mobile and to move, it's not fair. So, and actually, something very, very nice happened to me. My visa got issued in very small time, and I would like to take this platform to thank the Spanish consular, because he came out himself. He gave me the passport with the visa, and he said, we are very proud of you. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Can I give you a hug? I know you're the counselor, but so these kind of things, policymakers or regulators are not statues. They're people. They're human beings, and they could feel us if we talk to them. And the third thing is access to networks or networks. I think the thing that helped me take a jump after a jump is networking. I always hear this term in the ecosystems of entrepreneurship and innovation that, oh my God, these people are event people. I mean, so what? Why are we being so harsh on the younger women and men who are trying to build their profile and have access to these people? I think it's very important that scholarships become more available, that mobility becomes an easy thing, and for these people to access these networks. Because, as you said, I need role models. In Egypt, for example, I don't have a role model for someone who's working on blockchain applications and artificial intelligence in energy systems. It's non-existent. So I need access to these kind of networks to sit and talk and be like, oh, Kara, can we have a Skype call next week so I can build my expertise? And also one more thing. I politely disagree with Sheryl Sandberg's book Clean In, because she's been in the book. There is a lot of highlight on how women are not doing enough. For example, that people only mentor people who look like them. This is a paradigm that needs to be broken down. In all my life, I have seen people have mentored me. I had amazing mentors, and I don't look anything like them. So the barriers for women to express themselves and to be out there and to actually be active members in the tech community are not just because of women. This is like the straight sentence. It's not because of women. It's because the habits created in the ecosystem are not making it thriving for us to be there. Yeah.
Thanks. And
thank you. These are Egyptian people clapping for me.
so,
Moroccan, okay.
so taking up on your last point on the barriers in the system, what can be the role of policymakers and in particular of cities to remove these barriers, to help women being more present more represented in the tech innovation sector? I will give you the floor, Laura.
Yeah, I like that question because so I think the more we do, the better, of course, to try to close all this that we haven't been doing in all our history. But I think sometimes, or at least I'm going to speak for my government here in Barcelona or Spain, that I think they have very good intentions of doing, things to improve the status of women and stuff like that. But sometimes they want to create their own thing, do their own thing, because then they can put this medal of this government did it, and maybe this is not the best efficient way to invest those resources. Maybe a way that I would do it is I would go to initiatives, companies, associations, people, communities that are already working in all those fields they want to tackle, and partner with them and give those resources to these people that are being working in the field and getting dirty, to work together with them. And at the same time, use the power that has policymakers and the capacity of communication, the capacity of resources to put all this together with people that has the knowledge, that is in contact with the problem, and that sometimes, or most of the times, they are the subject of the problem. So I would try to work more closely together, but really working, not just talking. Yeah.
Thank you. So building ecosystem and providing platforms
Like
for connecting and
together.
Thank you. What about your experience or recommendations, Kara?
So a few thoughts on that. So I think, first of all, I'm really supporting a lot of what Tina has just said. So look, women are not a problem that need to be fixed. We're actually part of a solution. and men and women together can be solution-oriented together. There are a few different categories, I would say, where it doesn't just come down to the policymakers in our countries, in our societies. However, there are some things that I think can be done. And I'll give some examples. So I'm from the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands, the Dutch government have set aside funding for women who are founders. So I almost dare to say female founders. There we go. So women who are founders of companies. And what they're looking at, again, is, so who's offering the funding? Because again, if only men are making the decision about funding companies, what do you think the outcome is likely to be? So we're looking at diversifying the entities that are providing the funding to begin with. So where that comes from both male and female funders, and looking at a category of individuals who are females, who are founders of companies, offering them 25,000 euro in order to get a small a small business started, so startups and scale-ups. So this is one area where the government is really behind trying to influence a diverse approach to offering funding to women who are working on building a business and looking at that startup economy that we have in the Netherlands. So I think that's one area. The next area is when we look at companies and what companies can do to support their societies. So I'll give an example from Microsoft, and that is that we have built a program which is called the Azure Academy. Now, Azure is the cloud from Microsoft, and you may be familiar with many other clouds from our friends at Amazon, from Google, and others. The name of that at Microsoft is Azure, so that's why I refer to the name the Azure Academy. And what we've done is we've recognized that because we have a gap in getting women into more roles in technology, and Emmanuel shared some really relevant and important statistics at the start of the conversation in that why women are being so impacted is because of the work that they're doing today is what's being impacted. It's not because they're women, it's because oftentimes, more times than not, we will find women in jobs that are highly administrative or logistical or process-oriented. And those roles, that type of work, are mostly being disrupted by technology. So if you think about it, how many of you can use your own Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, and whatever to plan your own meetings? Do you need an assistant to sit behind a telephone nowadays to plan your meeting for you, right? So it's just a very small example, but that type of work is being disrupted. And so how can we help women to transition and transform themselves by getting new skills? And so through the Azure Academy, we are focusing on women between the age of 18 and 55. Right now is about the age of range that we have in some of the groups. And we're taking groups of 30 individuals at a time who are in a point of recognizing that the work and the role that they're in is being disrupted because of technology. And we're offering them new skills in order to learn how to become a data scientist. And so they go through a 4-month program. It's fully instructor-led. They come out of that with certification from Microsoft. And then to complete the cycle, we're offering a job fair where we're bringing companies from around the Netherlands to the table to meet these women once they have their certification, because they say, hey, we need data scientists in our company. Well, here you go. We just graduated 30 more women in the society. They have these skills. And now we have placed more than 90 women in the last year in new jobs in the Netherlands that would have otherwise been disrupted. So that's one group. The other group are looking at refugees. So we have a lot of people coming into the Netherlands from elsewhere, and we want to invite them and welcome them to be a part of our economy and a part of our society. In order to do so, one of the skills that we also recognize we really need more great work in is in cloud administration. So again, we're going through a similar process, and we're offering to groups of individuals who are refugees skills to become cloud administrators to help us move our economy into the cloud and work with us in those systems. So those are two things and examples where, as a corporation like Microsoft, and I'm very familiar with programs that Amazon and Google and others offer in a very similar way, to help to educate and train society in order to stay ahead of the disruption that's coming. And then the third piece, I think, is really in terms of the evangelism and the ambassadorialship that we each can have as representatives in our societies. So I'm on the Executive Advisory Board for Global Women in Tech. I shared a little bit of information about that. I also offer my time to another area which is in the medical field, which is the Corneal Patients Association of the Netherlands. And that's through a very personal story and experience, in fact, of having received an eye transplant myself. And what I have been able to do is learn from my own experience of the transplants that I went through in offering digital capabilities to individuals who are struggling with visual impairments, and letting them learn how to use technology so that they can be independent and remain independent despite visual impairments. And that's something that I personally have a lot of passion for. I contribute a lot of my own time because I have the knowledge of technology and I have experience of being a donor recipient and a transplantee. And I want to help enable more people to stay active, to stay involved, and to stay independent by utilizing technology in order to make their lives better. So those are 3 examples that I would share with you, from the policymakers to the companies and corporations that we work in and represent, to what I think we as individuals can do. And when as an individual you find your own passion and you find your own purpose in what you think will help to change, improve, or even save people's lives and the planet, then those are the things that I would love to see you go and do in order to make a real difference in the world.
Thank you very much. We still have a few minutes to take questions, so please don't be shy, and we'll give you the floor. Anyone willing to ask a question to our panelists? Yes, please.
Hello, and thank you so much for coming today here. My question is related to quotas, and to what extent you believe that quotas should be legislatively binding? Are they useful from your point of view or not? Thank you so much.
Who wants to take the floor?
I'll go.
Laura, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go.
I think they're a necessary evil. I don't really like them, but we do still need them. And because I think it's helping us to set a benchmark, to set a goal, and help us to drive towards achieving that goal. What I don't like about quotas is being the token number in that quota, and the conflict that many women and men go through, by the way, because more and more men talk about anti-discrimination, right? So women feel that they're being labeled as having gotten the job because they're a woman, for instance, whereas men start to feel, wait a minute, I didn't get the job because I'm a man, right? So there's this sort of double in the detail on that one. So I think they're necessary in order to drive towards achieving closing the gap. However, I think we also have to be very cognizant of the fact that they can influence the wrong behaviors, and we need to be very conscious of those behaviors that we're seeing coming up. And we need to be able to talk about that and not just assume that everybody agrees that this is the best talented person for their job, regardless of their gender. And it happened to be a man, it happened to be a woman. Let's have that conversation, but not the because they were a man or a woman, they did or didn't get that job. I'd rather not have that conversation.
Thank you. Another question, maybe? Yes.
Thank you for presentation. I have very basic question. Why gender matters in technology and innovation?
Why gender matters in tech and innovation?
Can I answer this question? Why gender matters? Why do we need to speak about women in tech? Because basically, gender bias is not something that you can see. You can see it, but most of the time you have to have a sensitive eye for it. For example, when the Me Too campaign came out, horrific, horrible stories happening all on the time, and they're not visible. We don't see them. So if we don't create this space to talk about it, there will be ignorant policies. There will be ignorant company cultures. It's not sensitive for women. So far, so far we have not proven that it's not important. So far we've seen that it's very important. We need to be educating policymakers, we need to be educating corporates about the sensitivity of the culture, how to not walk in the room and find yourself working with all men. This is why I think it's from my personal...
I think there are like a lot of like examples that you can experience. So a friend of mine, and not only talking about gender, but also about diversity. So a friend of mine, she's black. She went to work and she couldn't wash her hands because the sensor of the sink is only for white skin. Or if you look for if you look in Google Images, a SEO, you only will see white men in their 40s. So because technology is not built in a diverse way, all those solutions that we are creating, they are not either diverse and they do not respond to the whole society. So that's why it's very important when we are building technology, we're all together building those technologies, so it's going to represent all of us. And those are like tiny examples from our daily life. There are like plenty.
Yes, I'd like to build on both of those examples and to say, I don't think it's about the gender that matters, it's about the balance.
Yeah.
So we need to have the balance, regardless of the gender in the conversation. And so exactly to these examples here, so we start to see the bias that's already built into a lot of the data that we possess today is because the data is historical. And where that data has come from has predominantly been built based on male characteristics. So I'll give you a couple of examples. In the auto industry, I spent 12 years working with Royal Dutch Shell. And in the one of my global key accounts were in the automotive industry. One of the things that we saw was that in 40% case of accidents, that women would be injured in those accidents because the airbags failed to deploy in a way that was protecting a female body, which on average could be smaller in the chair and so on. The airbags initially were built and designed for an average male body. And so more women were being injured when the airbag would deploy because of the data that was driving the decisions about how to deploy that airbag. Another example, and to maybe turn that into something more positive, is also related to auto. So a beautiful example from Volvo was they recognized that they were missing a share of pocket in terms of female buyers of their cars. And they started asking questions about why are women not buying our cars? We have the safest cars in the road. They can put their children and their family in the car. Many women are driving those cars. Why aren't they buying the cars? And what they came to find out in actually deploying a research group of women-only engineers, going to talk to other women drivers, understanding what their choices and conditions were. And what they came to find out was in the Volvo and how the car was designed and built was the gas pedals and the pedals were way too far away. The women couldn't really get their stool close enough to the pedals in the car. The controls on the door handles for operating the window were too far away for them to reach. And so the car was very inefficiently designed for a female body, not to mention the airbag situation, but also just how a woman felt when she got in the car and not really being in control in that environment. And so women didn't tend to choose for Volvo. What they did was they brought in this women-only team of engineers. They went and completely redesigned the auto with a woman's body in mind. And having done so and sent out the prototypes to the market, they recognized also an immediate correlation of more female buyers of Volvo as a result of having redesigned around the needs of women. So 2 quick examples, and there are so many that we do experience today, where if you understand that even the voice capabilities do not recognize the pitches and the tone of a female voice. So all of the voice systems that we see being deployed today, if you're a woman, I would advise you at the moment, talk a little bit deeper into the microphones because then it will recognize your voice a little bit easier. But it's really struggling to pick up the intonations and the pitches of a female voice because, again, of the historical data that's been built into those systems. So we need the balance. We need to be able to remove some of those bias. And in fact, in some places, eliminating the bias, eliminating those elements of the data, and in some places even starting over again with new data sets that we can build on from here that are much more balanced in terms of representing the society that we want these products and services to be available for.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all. We've reached the end of our session. It's 3:30. I would like you to join me in thanking very much our three panelists for bringing us an insightful session, a kind of toolbox of ideas, concrete examples of how we can reach the gender balance in the tech and innovation sector. Thank you so much.